This is a grading video for Design 3301's lesson number 20. This is a redesign sprint where you guys were all challenged to choose your own assortment of different types of sketching to explore, investigate, explore, refine, and then persuade me or your audience with a new aesthetic redesign of an existing object. Particularly, you guys are choosing an existing hard goods project with a well-defined use and function to redesign using a different visual brand language. I'm looking for at least 4 hand sketches or hand sketch pages that you've scanned in and at least 4 digital sketch pages. I'm also looking to make sure that you've used all of these different types of sketching appropriately for what questions you had been answering in your design process. So that's pretty much it. As long as you've got eight pages and have an overall concept quality that is up to par with what I was expecting and what we discussed in class. This is a 100-point assignment, so pretty big assignment. This was an over-the-weekend assignment, and we're going to start off by looking at PDFs that I've asked you guys to assemble. If needed, I might jump into Sketchbook Pro to demo a small thing or offer a suggestion, but for the most part, we're just going to be looking through these in your PDFs. So we're going to start off with Gabriella, and it looks like your hard good product was redesigning the Target basket. Okay, so it looks like page 1, we're kind of looking at some 2D thumbnails exploring the shape. It would be nice to see a couple notes about what types of shapes you're exploring and maybe why these shapes are this way, but sketching style here is reading pretty well. It's nice to see this existing object on your page. Second page here looks like another hand sketch exploring in a little more detail some of these 2D thumbnails in 3D. Another appropriate use of sketching here. I can tell you're looking at balance and sliding handles, details on the bottom. I appreciate the notes here. Sketches are loose, but not sloppy. Maybe a little bit more shading would have been helpful here, just to communicate maybe like handle as opposed to base. Yeah, let's see. Next page, a couple more thumbnails here. I think the contours are doing a pretty good job of explaining what these surfaces are doing, so that's nice. I do think maybe adding a little bit more of maybe a title for some of the exploration you're looking at here. Like, is this group specifically looking at handle differences, and maybe it would be nice to see another group looking specifically at like basket bottom differences. But again, we're early in this process here, so this is thumbnailing. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is actually a very good view. Position of the basket with relationship to a body, and it looks like these might be, wow, you actually hand drew each one of these separately, so this must have been on page on like hand sketching the page. Yeah, I think this is a helpful exploration. Again, it might be nice to see a title on this page for what it is you're exploring. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but for those people who maybe aren't designers or as familiar with your project, would be good. Okay, into digital stuff. So this must be your reference, your visual brand language reference called Nutcase. Matte finishes, smooth circular outline, I'd imagine. Rubber silicone, filleted holes, peek out underneath, soft. So your callouts are great. I think we're missing just some color on this. If this is a visual brand language, I guess, investigation sketch, I'd like to see some color on that. All right, so it looks like we have 7 different concepts that you're moving forward with, and no real notes here on what maybe the main concept is behind each of these. I think that would be a nice thing to include. Like, if this one has a convertible handle, maybe you can say like concept 4 convertible handle. Also, I think some like light color or shading would really help these feel like we're progressing through your ideas. maybe delineate between handle geometry and base geometry. All right, so this looks like a final set. I scrolled through here. So it looks like these are your final 3 concept directions. And again, I think we're missing some really important notes on this page as to like why these 3 concepts are different. Maybe, I mean, it looks like we've got handle geometry, like liner, and sort of like outside geometry here. Tell me why the shape is flat on one side, round on the other. Why this one is round all the way around. We saw those details explored here, but those notes would be great to see on this final compilation, specifically when you're trying to differentiate between these 3 concepts. And give me a number too. Is this concept 2, 5, and 6? Or 4, 5, and 6? Or something like that? Yeah. Overall nice like volumetric shading here. I can tell this is a nice round surface. I can tell we've got inside and outside geometry. The yellow vignette behind red and green bag maybe you could get away with like the same hue as one of the other colors already on here, or just gray. And then we'll look at your compositional page here. Cool, so these are stackable. This is a cool way to show that. Front view, side view. You could even label like front view, side view. Collapsible handle. If this handle, I see like that opens and here it is here. Maybe that arrow makes more sense on this drawing, because here nothing's changed from stacking position. Here it actually has opened. Flush with body, that's a great view to show context and scale, nice. And this is kind of your glamour shot. Now, I think you have a lot of the right views we need to see to explain this product. However, maybe think a little bit more about your priority, like information priorities here. I think perhaps the overall view of this object that you've selected should be a large and more featured view, and definitely show us like materials and colors in this view. And some of these other, like the stacking and body position, can be more secondary views. So overall, I think maybe you just ran out of time on this one. I like that you went there with like highlights and colors, and we're starting to get a sense for material on some of these like these comparison drawings here. Overall, Gabby, I think nice progression through your forms, although I think it could be made a little more obvious with labeling and titles on page to page, and definitely would, I think we're missing some like color and value on some of your later more digital sketches, especially like this compositional page here. All right, so I'm gonna get out of this one. We're gonna close the tab. Oh, we got our assignment still open here, that's fine. So Gabby, we're going to move on to Kennedy. All right, Kennedy. So it looks like we're looking at the original JBL speaker here, and you're starting to explore some thumbnails of like different shapes with the same elements. Side note, I think you need to maybe look at making these pages appear a little bit less gray. If you're taking a photo of this page, bring it into Photoshop really quick and bring the color of your entire page back up to white. I think it'll help it read a little bit more nicely in the digital space. There we go, we can see the whole thing. Yeah, your notes, Kennedy, are really great, talking about things like where the logo is placed, fits in a water bottle holder. That's maybe a reason for the shape. So good first round here. Now we're seeing the back of this, and I see you're exploring the back of each of these shapes. This is kind of an interesting way to look at these. Again, I can tell you're thinking through a bunch of ideas on this page, and I think your style is appropriate for this too. I love that you're using the single pop of red color to call out where the brand goes, like it does on the original speaker. All right, Yeti. Why are you drawing a Yeti cooler? I think it's because I asked you to explore, like, show me a visual brand language. So again, for the sake of showing this to people who maybe don't know why you're drawing a Yeti cooler, Yeti, like visual brand language exploration would be a nice thing to include in your title. Emphasize part line, that's very true. Rubber here, gentle changes in form, rounded corners, molded look, all of these things. I think you're spot on here. Thick wall. Okay, I'm starting to tell that you can. This is the brand you're going to go after. What is this page about? Maybe give me a title for this page too. Like, I'm exploring Yeti shapes on JBL speaker forms. I think that's what's going on. Yeah, because I can see some of these shapes from here are being applied. So give me a title on this page. Your perspective is maybe just a little bit off on some of your shapes. Like, especially this brand detail here, I think is just a little bit off. This top one looks okay. I know we're thumbnailing, but definitely when it comes to like visual elements being added, try to get those in perspective. Give yourself some reference. All right, this page, what are we looking at? Give me another title. It looks like now we're exploring maybe variations on two different forms, and maybe these two forms, maybe this is one and this is one. I think you could make that a little more clear with some notes, or even on this page, like star this one if we're going to explore it on the next page. Now that we're in digital, I also think that maybe some color would be appropriate. You know, we've been working in black and white the first several pages here. Start thinking about some color as we res up some of these details. Detail refinement, that's good. Tell us what we're refining though, like stand refinement, like kickstand refinement. Maybe, I'm not sure what these details are for, and this looks like speaker mesh location or something. Just put that on the page and add some notes about why maybe, you know, we have a big outline here and why this is full coverage. Just help us see your thinking a little bit more with a few notes. Button exploration, this is a great thing to explore. I think you could probably fill this page more with more buttons. These are great shapes, like a facet, rounded, double button, sure, silicone, soft push. That actually looks like some really cool shading. It'd be great to see, like, I don't know, 20 more buttons on this page, maybe different shapes too. Or even if you could show like which button you're exploring, like put one of these views on this page and highlight where the button is so we can see what these buttons are in context of the larger object. This page just kind of feels a little incomplete. All right, and then we have your final three concepts here, and these are looking really cool. So I can tell that you've sort of downplayed your line work a little bit. I know this is something we talked about in class. I'm glad you're experimenting with it. The edges of your shapes here are maybe just a little bit rough, and I think actually having that line work, at least around the outline and some of these details, might help clean those edges up. Or if you don't want to emphasize any line work on these to make them feel like sketches, you definitely have to clean up some of these edges. Overall, these are three very related concepts. I like that you're exploring brand application differently on these two. Give me a third option here. For carabiners and hanging, cool. Show me a carabiner. That'd be a great little detail, and it would also give us some scale. I think a hand or something in one of these views would help us see how big the speaker is supposed to be. Two-handed comfort, yeah, especially if you're talking about where someone grabs these. So your main things here, we have speaker location. I see 3 different versions, great. Button location, 1, 2, 3 different versions, great. Molded form has affordance as stand. That's a great detail. Maybe showing the rear on this one would make sense. And I think we're missing we're not really missing a page, but One page that really I think ought to be a part of your set, maybe more importantly than this page, would be a concept composition showing me one of these concepts in its context. Like show me a front view, a rear view, it in use. That's super important. Overall, though, I think your design exploration leading to these, although we're missing some notes, I definitely think that these are successful in looking like they fit within the Yeti brand for speakers. So nice job with that, Kennedy. All right, we're going to keep going to the next person. Amber. And it looks like Amber didn't give me a PDF, so we're going to just open these in Sketchbook. Or maybe I'm just like not quite seeing it. Hold on a sec. Just make sure I don't have that somewhere else. Yeah, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 digital sketches. Where are your hand sketches? I will check Carmen really quick. Don't worry, I'm not grading guys in front of you on this video. But I am going to see if they came in a different submission. There it is. Okay. Sometimes when I download this stuff, it doesn't get all of your submissions. So I'm going to just grab your PDF. This is less than 20. Although, oh, yeah, this is. Okay, there it goes. "21 minutes? Yikes. Okay, you know what, Amber, we're going to skip you for now. I'd rather not like open all of these sketchbook files if I don't have to. So we're going to go on to Casey for now. So here we go, Casey. What? Okay, great. Well, I am pausing for the moment because everything seems to be updating, which is wonderful. It looks like I actually have two different file things for you, Casey. One is hand sketches. Weird, I wonder what that's supposed to be. Okay, Casey. Yeah, maybe they just came in separately. Oh my goodness. I don't care, Adobe. Okay, Camelback, drawing existing bottles. Great. These are 3 great renderings. This looks like digital sketching, so maybe you traced over some existing bottles. The proportions look pretty darn exact. Nice job with that. And nice rendering style too. I can kind of tell this is clear. This is like it looks like it has a, like an indent or something around the edges, twist off cap, small rubber details, large logo. Alright, so we have some reference, good. So here you're exploring, actually we're going to go full screen here. So Camelback thumbnails, bottle shape, rubber case, and twist off cap ideas. So a couple different shapes, cases, okay, are these like silicone? Maybe a note or two about like, hey, this has an area for gripping, this maybe fits better in a bottle holder, like why did you pick these shapes? Would be nice to see. Nozzle details, cap, shape, and more bottle shapes. Okay. Is this, I guess why are we seeing like another page of these? Are these like existing ones and these are new shapes? Maybe you can help me with a few more notes here. These don't look quite fully realized. Like I guess I can kind of see you're exploring like this area of that nozzle is round versus one of these other shapes. A little hard to tell what's going on, I guess, in this row. Tell me what you're exploring on this page. Are these 3D thumbnails of combining these ideas here? It looks like they could be. Like that's a shape that I'm seeing here, but maybe call some of those things out. Or on this page, if you star or otherwise indicate the shapes and details that you're moving forward with, it helps tell a story of your design development. Okay, I mean, nice efficient shading style here. I can tell you've got a core shadow and a core highlight. These made their way off the page. Try and keep them on the page. Okay, and 4 more bottle explorations here. I think another thing that would be helpful here are some notes about why you've chosen some of these differences. Like this is a screw-on cap without a straw. For what reason? This one has like a tethered screw-on cap. Does this handle get in the way when you drink out of it? I don't know. This is like a flip-up straw. Like call out some of these features. This looks like we've got 3 different. Okay, so let me keep going. We've got 3 different Camelback bottles, and unscrews here. I think actually the straw looks like maybe it pops up. That might be a good thing to call out with an arrow too. Again, I think we're missing some notes and definitely a title. Like this is concept 1, the pop-up straw concept. Nice hand. Concept 2, the 2-color concept. Like give this a name. And maybe show me with like the cap open. That might be cool to see. The hand looks great. Your view selection on these, I think, is appropriate. One to show scale, one sort of a detail of the lid. It might be nice to see this more from a top view. We already kind of see it from a side view here. And concept 3, give me a title, call out some differences between these bottles, for sure. Your rendering style is looking pretty nice. I can tell you're thinking about like material breaks and color application. Cool. I'm glad you are calling out a few of these differences, like 2 layers of plastic, clear plastic, a rubber nozzle. Some things that maybe are missing though are maybe some of the more important features, like this is a screw-on cap with a tether for the cap. This is not a screw-on cap with a tether. Like this is a flip-up, like bite straw nozzle thing. So make sure when you're calling things out, you're also showing us the difference between some of the features that you've selected. Okay, overall I think, yeah, again, I think you have a nice exploration of form. Maybe the new forms don't step very far from the existing bottles, and especially because you've chosen to use the exact same design language on the exact same product. I think what I was looking for more was a different brand applied to an existing product. These are still hitting pretty close to home, and some of these details are maybe not quite resolved enough, but overall, like the sketching style you've chosen to explore each of these steps, I think is pretty accurate. So, pretty nice set here. These all seem like they fall within the brand. I'm just missing a little bit of the reason behind why maybe some of these decisions were made. All right, let me see. We're gonna go see if Amber's is done downloading. Yes, it should be. No, I don't want to open it in Chrome. There we go. So it looks like we're redesigning this existing pot. You just gave me a photo, which is great. It might be nice to put a title on here, like existing teapot for redesign. All right. Now, I know you and I talked about this a little bit, Amber. You didn't actually choose a visual brand language to apply to this. You chose 3 different themes. And so we're just going to look at it from that view. We've got a tree theme, a Chinese palace theme, and a crane theme. And these are showing some nice differences in shape in your thumbnail. Yay, teapot thumbnail themes. Thanks for the title. 3D thumbnails. Okay, so it would be really nice if you put like a star or a circle around the thumbnails that you chose to make 3D. Again, it just helps us see your thought process behind this evolution. Makes the evolution a little more clear. Thinking about material, glass and ceramic. That's cool. These are nice sketches. You're thinking about inside and outside shapes. Your drop shadow looks really nice. It's helping these read. Okay. Form and proportion and spout. So detail exploration 1. All right, and it looks like maybe you're looking at specifically this like crane, maybe the crane detail. I guess that could be a little more clear. Detail exploration 2. Looking at the infuser. Great. And the handle attachment. Some mechanical details. Great details to see. Again, give me a star or something to show me which details you ended up choosing for these 3D thumbnails with applied color. For final composition, okay. Excuse me. Your notes are maybe just a little small. Make sure that these are nice and readable, especially in thumbnail mode. These are a little bit more for you. Once we get to this level of rendering, I think it's important that these are readable. I think this geometry looks well constructed. Actually, this one also looks pretty well constructed. This one is a little bit blobby, maybe. Maybe it's because it's supposed to be asymmetric. Like this looks nice. This shape, I don't know if it looks intentional or not. Adding a contour line might help make this feel a little more regular. And now we're going to single compositions. Cool. So it looks like we have one for each theme. So we have a large view that's showing some, I guess we can kind of see inside the internal geometry. That's nice. Again, I like to see these notes. Make sure they're readable. This thematic element back here, acting as a vignette, is kind of cool. I guess it kind of adds to the overall feel of this thing. And this exploded view with simpler shading, I think, is very successful in showing me what components are inside here. I'm so glad you included a hand. I know this is composition 1, 2, and 3. It'd be nice to actually title this to tree teapot, Chinese palace teapot, and crane teapot. This one, we've got our hero shot. It would be cool to see, this person is tilting this teapot. Would water be coming out? I'm not sure. Seeing this from another view is kind of nice. Would we not see the handle back here? Not entirely sure. And this is kind of showing the filter. This might also be communicated with just kind of showing the lid and filter coming out the top of the teapot, kind of like you did here. Composition 3, yeah, just like this one. I think this is a really successful set of views. To maybe build on this a little too, this shape, we're seeing this sort of like hero image, which is great. Maybe for this view, as you're pouring the teapot, we can make this view and this view be slightly different, so we can learn a little bit more about maybe the front of this object or the rear of the object. I guess we do see the front here, so that's nice as well. overall, I think you've landed on three very different concepts, and the views you've chosen in your compositions are helping communicate what's happening in each one of these, so that's nice. Overall, I would just like to see maybe a little bit more readable notes, and then maybe just a few like highlights on some of your thumbnails to help guide us through your thought process. But overall, nice job, Ingrid. All right, we're on to Carly. Where are we? Carly, there we go. All right, so I'm going to do something really quick where I add these all to the same PDF. Combine. And I'm going to just save this. As Carly. All right, that's an easy way to combine all these things together, just so it's easier to. Okay, yeah, definitely rotate these. So you're looking at a tape dispenser, and I see some labels on your expiration. We've got curved, angular, and animals. Okay, these are pretty simple, but I guess your elements are here. The tape roll and a place to pull the tape. We have lines, wooden cut, and shapes. So I guess these are more explorations on overall form. Also pretty nice. Okay. And now we're on to some 3D thumbnails. One thing that would really help tie these to this next step is just circle or highlight or star which of these 2D thumbnails you went to 3D with. Just helps tell the story of your process a little bit more. I see an animal one, a woodcut one, a lines, facet, shape, and maybe another shape one. Your shading, I think, is communicating the form pretty well. Cool to see that this one's kind of rounded. We didn't get that in the 2D view. Give me a title for some of these pages as well. So like 3D thumbnails, it'd be nice to see some notes about some of the features you've called out, like embedded metal cutter in wooden edge, or wood block base and metallic top, or call out some of the features on here. And that way you can label these as well. Like, are you exploring? I can tell you're kind of showing me iterations on this one form, but maybe it's more than that, and I wouldn't know unless you gave me a note. Like form iterations on an existing thumbnail. All right, so this we did look at in class 2. The brand you chose to apply, the visual brand language you chose to apply to these forms is from West Elm. It looks like kind of a specific collection of furniture, and it looks like we've got white, gold, and metallic, and some other color, blue. This like desaturated blue a little bit. All right, this is a great page. And these, so this, I sort of talked to you independently, and we looked at it in class afterwards with a few people. This is a really, I think, successful set in translating your brand elements from West Elm and applying them to some of your earlier unbranded exploration. Yeah, I think this is really nice. Sort of pulling the deconstructed frame from this table, very straightforward. Same with maybe this guy is kind of like faceted with a white top, and this like soft blue shape with just a hint of gold on there is exactly like this chair. I think this is just a killer set in terms of design intent. And one thing that I've talked about with a few people in class, I'm not sure everyone's heard this. This page, I think, emphasizes something really important, which is design intent and a reason behind why shapes are selected. It's also, like we've seen shapes that are maybe more well rendered, like a higher level of rendering technique, but also maybe with shapes and forms that are a little less, have less reason behind why they exist. This particular set does the opposite for me. I think the quality of design choice behind these very simple objects is very clear and communicated well without going overboard on rendering style. Yeah, this is awesome. And then we have a couple compositions. Again, I think it would be nice to see like tape dispenser options or like tape dispenser set. Concept 1 whale, concept 2, whatever that is, 3. I guess one thing that's a little, it's not really a disconnect, but I'm not sure anyone would ever own all 3 of these tape dispensers. Like they might own all 3 of some of these objects. But we can move on from that. Concept 1, tape dispenser details, like give me a title for this page. And this is where it would be appropriate to see some notes, like brass, white marble, about materials, or some of these details here. This is a sort of like how to use a tape dispenser thing, which is kind of nice. 1, make a note on a Post-it, which might be sticky. Why would you tape a Post-it? That's fine. This is how you use a tape dispenser. That's how the tape rips. I mean, this is a really cool sequence of views, and funnily enough, probably one of the more simple objects that doesn't actually need a scenario drawing behind it, but the way you've drawn these hands, I think, is really nice, so that's fine. One thing that I think is missing, and we talked about this a little too, is if you were going to show a scenario, I think the only thing that's not self-explanatory about maybe this product is how you change the tape roll. I think most people are pretty familiar with how, to pull tape and rip it off so you can use it, but not everyone is going to know just by looking at this how the tape roll comes out and how to put a new one in. So that's getting a little bit nitpicky. Overall, I think this is a really successful set of design objects, and nice job, Harley. Okay. So I'm going to do a time check. We've been recording for about 37 minutes, and we're only a third of the way through. So I'm going to kind of move a little more quickly through this, the second 2/3 of this group. Okay, so next is Luke. Where is your stuff, Luke? There we go. Okay. Looking at bindings, snowboard bindings. Great, and you put a label on it. Wonderful. Next we're looking at some different geometric orientations, and is this Dyson and bows? This is probably not enough to kind of explain what it is you're analyzing, which I think is a visual brand language, nor do I think it's enough to kind of illustrate what you found from the brand language, so definitely needs to be on its own page, I guess. And these thumbnails, I'm not entirely, I guess I can kind of see differences between these different steps, these different thumbnails, but I'm not entirely sure why you're exploring. Like, it would be nice to have a title about, like shoe capture geometry, or something, like explain what it is you're exploring here. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, so Dyson, and these are supposed to be Dyson shapes. Bows, these are supposed to be Bose shapes. Okay. I don't think maybe those shapes are communicating enough in this thumbnail form, because these are pretty small and simple. And there's no shading or color that would indicate, you know, how you're applying maybe even that level of detail. Jordan. So here it looks like you're exploring an existing shoe, maybe the sole of the shoe, and is this the underside, like the grip, or is this the back of the shoe, or the back of the binding? I'm not entirely sure what it is you're exploring here, so I'm going to keep going. Again, a title here I think would be helpful to show us like what are you exploring here? These shapes, where did they come from? Maybe it is from like one of these previous. Are you looking at like one of these things? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, this is a big leap. Okay, going from like simple 2D line sketches into like a fully rendered binding. I feel like I'm missing a few steps here. Yeah, where did this come from? I mean, this looks pretty great. I guess I am starting to see some of these, like that looks like the, yeah, Air Jordan shoe bottom, and I guess some details from the rear of the binding, a detail about the buckle. That's great. Give me a title, like Concept 1 Air Jordan binding, Concept 2 Air Jordan, different Air Jordan 4 retro. Yeah, wow. Okay, so these renderings are looking really nice. I like how you've set up the page. Each one has like a material call out, which is a great detail. Each one's calling out some mechanical feature. This definitely could use some more detail. Like here, it's simple lines. Here, show me some depth. And a buckle detail. That's cool. We're seeing the back of each of these. This view is very complex, but the shading that you have here is looking pretty good. Like, I can tell these are in front of sort of the inside of the shoe. I mean the binding. Yeah, wow. I mean, this is a nice set, Luke, of binding exploration. Like visual difference between these are great. You're giving me a bunch of different options, which is really cool. But it's really hard for me to see where that came from. I feel like we're missing some steps where you could have explored with some color or material details, like these side views, to show us your thought process that led to this a little bit more. Cool. Seeing all together that's a nice view too. Give me a title or something. It also might be nice to see this once in context. I know people looking at this would probably be familiar with the project, but for those of us who don't know what a snowboard binding is or where it goes, it would be cool to see that somewhere on one of these pages. Maybe here, like show me a snowboard with 2 of these on it. So overall, I'm just missing some details that led to your final exploration, Luke, but the final execution is looking very nice. Okay, Lauren. Analysis of an existing VR headset. Yay. Thanks for the title. Calling out components. Great. Need a title for this page. Exploring new shapes for VR headset. This one looks like it got a little away from you. Maybe this one too, the shape is kind of not symmetric. Here it looks like we're looking at front and side view. That's kind of a cool way to explore this. Maybe, are these like out of order? Yeah, maybe you did these guys first and then went to 3D, I'm not sure. The color is a nice touch to show us like, oh, we're looking, this is the front of the band side of the band, so nice job with that selection. And that looks like the Skull Candy logo, so I'm guessing, okay, I think these pages are just out of order. Skull Candy, cool, so logo application, that's a kind of a cool sketch. Calling out some colors and I guess inset buttons, a few details that you're going to use, I guess, here. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, let's keep going. These kind of look like a different style maybe than the skull candy, maybe not. Maybe it's just the color that's a little different. Did you do these first? I forget what we talked about here. Like maybe these came first, and then you looked at skull candy and started adapting them for the skull candy brand. None of these are like starred or highlighted to indicate which one you explored in the next round. I think it would help, along with some notes maybe about like, oh, this strap only goes around the rear, this one has a top strap, or like, are these themed explorations, or are you just like taking shots in the dark about your like theme here? I'm not sure. Okay, here's a jump. Again, like calling some things out in the 2D side of things would help us see which ones maybe led to this set. And yeah, add some notes to this too, like why, what are these matte areas? Is there a reason this is like offset? This blue padding, like is this strap different than this strap? Or maybe even like title, like this is concept A, B, C, D, E, F. Overall rendering style here is kind of cool. We're seeing a new angle for a lot of these shapes, which is nice, and starting to see some material exploration. Thumbnail, so it looks like you chose this one, so star this one, so we can see, okay, we're doing detail refinement. When you do detail refinement, it'd be great to call out why you're changing details to, like wider head, like eye pad area for comfort, or this shape so you can set it on a table more easily, or this shape because it looks like a skull. Like call some of those decisions out. You're thinking about them, so put that on the page in a word or two too. And I think some simple shading on this might help these volumetrically read to a level that's a little closer to what this is. Color variations, okay, that's a cool thing to explore. This could easily be expanded to color and material variations. You could actually show some different textures on this as well. Notes you could use here are like, why blue? Blue because it fits in with a particular line of skull candy, or red for a particular audience or particular game. Yeah, brand application is another thing that's often explored at the same time the color and materials are explored. Is this circled because you chose this one? Yes, okay. So progression of style here I think is really nice. Like simple shading, a little bit more volumetric shading here in the digital space. We see some shiny and matte details, but still not like spending time on like edge highlights and things. And then getting to this level, this is totally, one step further. These are looking really refined. It's nice. I see some edge highlights. That's great. Ooh, cool. Back view. That's a great thing. Skull candy, virtual reality headset concepts. As a page here, this is great. Glossy plastic, chamfered edge, logo application, phone sets inside. That's great. I kind of feel like all of these notes could be applied to each and every one of these, so probably a more appropriate set of notes for this kind of page would be notes calling out the differences between concept A, B, and C. Like, concept A has a skull-shaped outline, and this one has a V-shaped outline because of, I don't know, some other reason that you decided that. Oh, and that's it. Okay, so that's the last page. We're definitely missing a page. I feel like that would be important to show like one of these concepts from multiple angles, like show me a front view, a side view, maybe if there are buttons, or like if there's a phone that sits inside, show that happening. Overall rendering style and sketching technique for where you are in the design process is great. We're just missing a few details and a few call-outs about that you're basically like following the line of, or your thought process to these final concepts here. Okay, maybe I'm not going any faster. It's fun to look at these. Cole is up next. is your page, Cole. Lucy, Amber, or Carly, Casey, yep. Luke, Lauren, Cole. Here we go. Cole. There are 4 Coles, and I'm gonna have a feeling it's probably the same thing. I didn't see a PDF from you, so maybe it didn't download. Cool. There it is. Okay. So, cool, it's already done. Alright. Rotate your pages so it makes it easier for me to see these. Looks like you're exploring a knife. These are cool. 2D thumbs, rounded, curvy, and angular. Got it. Okay, on to the next page. Did I skip one? No. Okay, 3D thumbs, rounded, curvy, and angular. Nice. Oh, so it's not a knife. It's like a trimmer, like a beard shaver or something. Maybe put that on the page somewhere. That would be good. These could benefit from a few callouts, Cole, like, grippy thumb switch, or like rounded for multiple ways of holding it with hand, or maybe some of these details are worth calling out at this point. Your rendering style, I think, is appropriate here too. It's looking pretty good. Simple line work, still in gray with some cast shadows. It's looking great. Man, I really wish these were rotated. Just turn my head, I guess. So these are section views. Kind of look like detail views. I think they're detail views. Section view is like if you cut the object in half and you're seeing the inside of it. You're exploring details of this concept here. Oh, one other thing with these thumbnails is if you choose one that you like best to bring to the next round, put like a star or a circle or something around it so we can follow your thought process. Okay, awesome. Top view, back view, side view of the grips, and the front view. These are awesome detail shots. So nice job with that. Remington. Wow, these are really detailed, and I'm impressed with. Is this an existing object, or is this one that you designed? It kind of looks like one of these that you designed. I mean, you're giving me a bunch of like top view, this angle, the other angle, the side here. These are great view selections, and your marker work is looking pretty good too. I think you could benefit from maybe increasing the thickness of your outline, just to give your line work a little bit more readability. And then this page definitely could benefit from some details. Like, tell me about this button. These are grips features. This like yellow cutting edge to highlight the business end. Yeah, or you could call out this is supposed to be silicone, and this is sort of like a electroplated plastic to look like metal. Okay, 3 razor variations. And is this like multi-view of an existing one or one of your designs? Anyway, so we've got 3 razor variations. Okay, it looks like they all came from that same like rounded concept line. When you're showing 3 variations, it's important to call out the differences between those 3. So, like, tell me about why this head is different from this head. Is this one better at, like, trimming, I don't know, beards, and this one's better at trimming eyebrows, or who knows? Looks like we have a couple different locations for this thumb clicker button kind of thing. Maybe this detail is something you could have showed a few different shapes for, just to have another variation. I can tell clearly that the handle is a different shape, but maybe you can give us a note as to why it's different. Like, this is better for small hands, this one's better for big hands, this one's better for old hands, or something like that. Looks like maybe some erasing got messed up down here. I'm not sure what's going on with the pattern down here, but calling out these, yeah, that's great. Side panel grips, power button, long teeth for, yeah, great. These are great notes. Final Concept 1, awesome. I think what's missing from these 3 pages, like this view is perfect, and I'm glad you're using the same view for each of these, but I think we're missing some scale and context. I think a second view or third view on each of these Final Concept, what could be compositions, would be really helpful. Like, show this in someone's hand, or maybe like near an outline of a face. And then you could also maybe do like a regular old like top view of this object, so we can really appreciate its symmetry, or like some of these curves from a different perspective. We see that, you know, like the top and front, but we don't really see the back of this guy. So anyway, overall, it's an interesting set of forms that you've wound up on, and I can see that it comes from some of these thumbnails. It could be a little more clear which ones you decided to explore. And I think maybe more importantly, Cole, you can start thinking about now that you're starting to find, it looks like you're becoming a little more comfortable in the digital space, you start thinking about why some of these forms are the way they are. That's a hard leap to make. You know, shapes just to make shapes versus shapes that exist for a specific reason. I do think I like that you're doing these color breaks, that it helps communicate, you know, like grip area from not grip area. I really liked that yellow on these guys. I think your shading method in the digital space still needs a little bit of work, so you can kind of figure out where your light source is, and you know, like the top of this entire object would probably be lighter than the bottom of the object. But we can, really, that just comes with practice. So, all right, cool. We're going to move on to Dexter. Commercial solution spray bottle. This is an existing bottle, I'm guessing. Okay. Sticking with the Prismacolor. That's nice. This is reading really well. Nice job with these. Alright, so you're looking at Bodum kitchen projects. Oh, that's right. You've already looked at this VBL in the past. It'd be nice to see that included in this set, like your analysis of Bodum. I'm familiar with it, so at least I can see where you're pulling some of these shapes, like this dot color. The dot pattern is important. Yes, they do have a lot of these more regular kind of proportions. I can see you circled a few of these to maybe move on to the next round. Okay, cool. Moving from 2D into 3D. The bottle shape seemed pretty well resolved. The head shape seems like, at least in some of these, you're not really looking at changing that too much. Maybe you could change it a little bit more, like you did here. Detail exploration. Okay, which details? I guess maybe we're looking at detail refinement. I see each of these kind of has like an outline, but you're kind of playing with the proportions. So maybe say like, you know, proportion of side cut exploration. Looks like we've got grip area that's slightly changing, and the head shape is also slightly changing. Brand application, maybe not necessarily needs to be explored in this set when you're still looking at form variations. but I'm glad you're thinking about it. All right, now into the digital space. So this looks like we've got three different concepts here. A hero view, that's kind of the side view, a squirting view with a hand, and like an exploded view. So nice view selection. I do think one of these maybe could show us like this hand view. Maybe if it was turned toward the viewer, we would see some more thought behind, you know, the front of this shape. The detail variation here too, like all three of these concepts are pretty similar. I know I was looking for three variations on sort of a theme. Another thing that's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's bothering me a little bit, is your shading looks maybe a little patchy or muddy, as I would call it. See if you can use sort of a bigger brush to cover more area with a couple strokes, and think of it less like a small marker, like filling in these areas. I think it'll help even out your value over more of the surface here. You know, another thing that maybe could be explored a little bit further, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, would be like the color breakup, and because these are water bottles, like maybe looking at them being transparent versus not transparent. Yeah, I guess that's one thing that maybe could be explored a little bit more, especially if you're showing three different concepts here. We're also missing a few notes about some of your design decisions. So like, why is this pattern extended down here? What is this cut for? Why does this not have a, like, you know, something hanging off the back like this one does? Call out what that feature is all about. Can you adjust the spray by turning the nozzle here? I don't see that anywhere. That would be a cool thing to see. So overall, I think the sketching style for each step in this process is appropriate. And these do feel a little bit more like a Bodum bottle than your original does. Although I think maybe some of the details could have been pushed a little bit further toward Bodum and explained a little bit more in callouts. But we're getting there. Okay, Laura. All right, I see Laura's Photoshop files, but I'm feeling it's the same thing. Yeah, PDF came first. All right, find a way to rotate these pages so they read the right way in your PDF. Nikon DSLR redesign ideation. Lots of notes. We've got some body shape ideas. These seem maybe oversimplified. These details look more thought through, I suppose. Although round would make it look like a toy. Rounded for hands. Okay, I mean, it's good to see your thought process here. Maybe star one or two things that you decided to move forward through to the next round. All right, looking at the front camera body, SD card, reader slot, video ports cover. Okay, I'm glad that you're calling those things out. So no problem with any of this stuff other than give me a star or a circle or some way of highlighting which of these thumbnails you decided to move forward with and maybe why. We're looking at grips and flash indication and like button arrangement. Okay. This is a pretty complex object. Yeah, okay. This is a cool way of calling out what detail we're looking at. I very much appreciate that. Okay, and now we're like, okay, that must be Okay, this is existing. This is an existing camera, and we're looking at where everything comes from. So this is a nice analysis. Material and color, nice. Consistent viewfinder, red accent. Okay, nice page. Now we're looking at 3D thumbnails only of the body. Okay. Again, if you had starred some of these original ones, we would be able to say, oh yeah, she took this one, and now we're looking at it here. Thick body. Maybe some notes about like added facet here for easier button access. This one has, you know, side grip function. This one is meant to be held a different way. It tells why your shape variations mean something. Also, I think this ellipse is not the right perspective. That looks off. Yeah, that one too, maybe. The axis that ellipse would be on is kind of here, and I think this ellipse needs to be rotated a little bit more like this. So this, unless it's like angled up, I don't know, something about that one looks a little bit weird too. So the new one looks like you're sketching on top of some sort of underlay maybe. I'm not sure, but we can see some detail differences here. So we're extending that red accent, nice. Squared viewfinder. This is a nice page. Here are 3 different variations. These ellipses look close, like that one looks right, that one looks right. These, yeah, I think those ones look right. This page, especially when we're seeing 3 different versions of your 3 different options for the same object, you definitely want to call out what the differences are. Like these buttons have a like molded over silicone piece. This one is like a separate plastic piece, and this one is molded in a different way. Here we have a flat top axis button. This one is chamfered, and this one is maybe chamfered a different way. You know, call out those differences between these, and for the most part, these are pretty similar. So I think the notes are going to help even more with what it is you're trying to show is different. Okay, hand, great. Wrist strap, that's great for scale. Display example, this would actually benefit from maybe having that silver ring around it to kind of place it in context. And this looks like maybe it was sketched at a smaller resolution and then scaled up. It just looks a little bit fuzzy. Overall, I mean, these definitely look like Nikon DSLRs. I think that some of the design elements could be pushed a little bit further, and actually I was kind of hoping that you would find a brand that a different brand to apply to an existing object. So we could you give yourself a little more practice adapting shapes and colors to an object they're not already on. Overall, I think your sketching style seems appropriate for these different steps. There is a bit of a gap between here and like this level here when we're really getting into details. And I think we are missing a few notes and maybe a few call outs about to help us follow your design intent process here. All right. In time, maybe you gave me a PDF, different thing, probably. That's what this is. right, shape and form of what? A helmet, I guess? It'd be nice to see some themes behind where these shapes are coming from. A lot of them maybe seem like they're actually lacking some sort of direction, which is uncommon for you. Okay, these look like they have a little more structure behind them. Some of these shapes are starting to evolve. Again, I think having some sort of theme, or if there was a theme, like labeling that for us is going to help with the exploration. And it would also be nice, like star 1 or 2 or 3 of these that we take to the next round. Alright, so it looks like still exploring some form. These are more 3D. Because you're starting to think of these more in 3D, I think some very light shading, or at least some contouring to show how these surfaces transition would be appropriate. And I know you know how to do that. You've seen it before. Looks like analysis of an existing helmet, brand, bureau. What do you think? Yeah, okay. This is a nice page, analyzing some of the existing components. Alright, so concept 1. We've got the hero shot and some of the thumbnails that led to it. I guess it's kind of nice to see those details embedded in this page. However, I think maybe this could be a little bit larger to emphasize what's going on here a little more. And because this is, let's see, you keep going. Now, because this is like a composition page, I think maybe more important than some of these thumbnail sketches would be a different view of this. Like, let's see a top view of this helmet so we can actually see the pattern of ventilation holes, for example, or the inside of the helmet so we can see like the padding pattern. Yeah, definitely. I think that's what's missing from these concept pages. Your rendering style is really nice. I can tell light's sort of coming from the top, and it's really helping these surfaces read, like, oh yeah, this surface is facing upward, this is sort of a cut that wraps around the back of the helmet. I think from top to bottom, we talked about this a little bit, like, this object has great surface, like the surfaces are reading well top to bottom, but this doesn't look like a round object, like it would, like it should maybe as a helmet. Like it kind of feels flat to me, and I think probably as a whole, if the surfaces closest to us were maybe a little darker, and all of these edges around that were kind of wrapping to the back were reflecting this like gray background with actually becoming lighter, I think that would help these read as a round object a little bit more. Yeah, you found like 3 very, very different directions, and you've chosen some colors that kind of match those directions. I appreciate that. Some nice pattern application too. And there's our final set. Flare, Swift, and Bold. I'm glad you named these. I do think probably also appropriate for this page. This is a nice detail too, like wind coming off the top. Another appropriate detail for this page would be to call just maybe just a couple little details about why these concepts are different. Like this has a shield. This one has like a built-in visor. This one is, it looks more rugged. Is it more rugged? This is different than this, and which is also slightly different from this. Like this, maybe you can hear better. This is more of like a helmet for riding, like higher speeds or moped or something. I mean, your rendering style is really nice. I think what's missing are some notes about your form design decisions, calling out which objects you decided to move forward with, and then some extra views showing this object from, not just the side view to show a final concept. This side view is great for comparing. It'd be great to see a head in here too, maybe. So, nice job, time. Okay, Eunice, The original hose head. Okay. Just exploring some of the existing like components, that's fine. That might be another thing to call out here, like you've never done a hose head before, so call out the things you're going to have to redesign. Flow switch, flow type, selector, handle grip, hose attachment point. This must be the brand that you're applying, the Nike Vapor line. Cool to see you're absorbing some of these shapes and colors. Good. Form exploration. So you're looking at the silhouette, so you could even just say like hose handle silhouette exploration. Not entirely sure where these forms are coming from. You could call that out, like, hey, we're taking some of the angles from the club and putting it into here. And that's definitely what's going on here. So, just one thing you and I already talked about a little bit was, it's one thing to just take shapes from here and apply them to this outline, but I think the next level of sophistication comes when you start thinking about why, like what those shapes and colors mean in their original context, and how you can reapply them within this new context. So, like the business end of these clubs is all still metal, and this visual accent here is on like the non-business end of, like, this never touches the ball. We could go a lot deeper into this stuff too, and on a handle too, you want to call out certain functionality with color and shape. And when we talk through this a little bit, like it's kind of there in some of these concepts. I really do appreciate that you have changed some key things, like this is more of a finger grip, a smooth grip, and like almost like a squirt bottle grip. But some of these shapes are still maybe a little bit arbitrary in their application. Not to take away from the fact that you can draw and render these shapes in a very attractive way. Also, like, this is simpler because you're still exploring where the shapes ought to go than this, where you've sort of selected, and we should see like, oh, this is the one I picked, this is the one I picked, and this one. Once you've selected that, now you're rendering their shapes at a higher fidelity, which is very nice. Yeah, nice call out of some of these metals here. I'm not sure that like flex, flow, and bold are coming across. I guess the silhouette is the same, but the shapes are all very angular. I'm not, like, they all kind of seem maybe just bold to me. Okay, glad we're seeing like a front view here with your flow selection, and you're calling out a detail here about how you might see it. I'm also happy to see a hand. This is a really nice detail of how the hose might look, although I'm not sure how it attaches, what screws onto what down here. Rendering style looks really nice. In context, okay, that's fun. And I guess another view that we don't really see here that I think is important, we see side view. Now I see the front, but I never really see like the top view, like the view that you would see when you're actually holding the hose in your hand. I think would be a really nice and important view to see here. Another thing I think we talked about too is like these objects, although like you can really tell your faceted surfaces, and these things are, like, I can tell that's chamfered down and sitting below these surfaces. As a whole, these objects seem pretty flat on the page. Like, this should feel round, because it's, this surface wraps around the back. I guess this handle is starting to look kind of round, but like these two still look kind of flat to me. And you might think about trying to render, you could go over with another layer of like shadow and highlight and think about this object as a whole as you shade and add light. or maybe just think of a more straightforward or less ambiguous light source as you're shading each of these surfaces independently. Like, where is the light coming from on this guy? Because it really looks like you have a bunch of light sources. And I'm being really picky, Eunice, because I mean, clearly you're comfortable in the digital space and you can execute at a very high level now. Things like value and line work and applying color, and it looks like you're thinking through these shapes, trying to push you a little bit further. So, all right, nice job, ladies. Okay, we got 2 more left. Liam, and then Tessa. Okay, another gyro, or is it gyro helmets. This is a pretty cool helmet. Taking a look at, I always say draw your reference. You can digest some of these shapes and surface transitions and color and material. That's great. And it looks like a second reference page. I guess that's okay. Okay, top scoop iterations. And visor iterations, retention iterations. I guess just thumbnails. Okay. It's neat to see that you're thinking about airflow here. These look pretty similar. Oh, I see, the retention. I gotcha. These are 2D thumbnails. I think you could probably fit a few more on this page. We find iterations based on user scenarios. Rounded visor, more protruding shell, more vents. For what scenario? Is this like, maybe you could tell us a little more about the scenario? Like, why would someone, like, what user would want a more rounded visor, protruding shell, and more vents? Is this like for someone riding outside, inside, and on a motorcycle? Or just help me out with that part of it. Also, like, the helmet itself is really small, and I think that's the most important part. How to wear. All right, well, there is this, okay, so we've got this concept, and it looks like the concept of one more vent and one less vent. I mean, these are essentially the same concept. I'm not sure that you even need to show these 2 variations. They're so similar. I would rather see this one from like a top view and a rear view, because I don't get those details. How to wear a helmet. Maybe for the redesign, this page actually isn't that important. Okay, in context, that's nice to see. Again, I think maybe this could be a part of another composition, especially because we're still seeing the same exact view as we did here and on these guys too. Once again, I think this information could probably be on this page. Like, there's your hero shot, show me a top view, show me an airflow view, and a rear view. Yeah. So I guess I'm kind of missing Liam. Like, I see that you're able to render at all of these different levels, and you're thinking about things like airflow and how you wear it and scale and context, but I think we didn't really ever get to see your 3 concepts next to each other before you moved into like a final page composition. So maybe not quite as complete as it could be here. And I think also you got to force yourself to try and draw these objects from more than just one view. It's tough because you have to think about how it looks from another view, but that's important because these are 3D objects. Your rendering style here is looking really nice. I see you're getting more comfortable with the digital space. One thing I think you can do moving forward is making your shading even more dramatic. like this object, I can tell like this vent really cuts in nicely. Your edge highlights are looking great, but your object also as a whole looks kind of flat. You know, it wraps around the front and around the top, and it's flat in the back. So I think your shading can help emphasize that even more. All right. And last but not least, Tessa. And it looks like maybe Tessa, you also had a PDF somewhere else. Oops. Yeah. Let's pull it down. Okay, so I know, Tessa, we talked after one class, you and a few other people who were interested in a better way to scan in your images to get rid of some of this like gray. I think the one thing we mentioned was like just find a really consistent light source. That way when you bring it into Photoshop, you don't get this like gradation of color. Okay, so Gatorade. Yeah, these look like Gatorade. Just looking at different shapes, divots toward bottom, repeating lightning bolt. Okay, that's great. Color on a page that is looking at brand is also appropriate because Gatorade has its own like set of colors. Materials, existing product study. Okay, that title maybe could be a little bit larger. So you're redesigning a brush using Gatorade. I think that's what's happening. All right, based off Gatorade colors. Where are the colors though? Based off the bell-shaped top and square bottom. Okay, I can see that. Based off lightning bolt addition. Okay, finding a way to add a lightning bolt. Nice thumbnails. Another thing you could add to these thumbnails too are some notes about like why some of these details exist. Like that would be the grip, and this lightning bolt is a grip, but here the lightning bolt is for some other detail. Based off twist cap, based off divots and ridges, based off curvy bottle silhouette. You can probably just get rid of the words based off and just say like shape top and square, bell-shaped top and square bottom, lightning bolt addition. That's fine. All right, another thing you're going to want to do on these thumbnails is like put a star next to the 1 or 2 or 3 thumbnails that you moved to the next level. So this needs a title and some notes about what it is you're exploring. Right, these look like 3 thumbnails of something from these pages, but I'm not sure which ones. And definitely some detailed callouts about like why some of these shapes exist. And if you can't think of a good reason why a shape exists, like you can't put a call out to it, that's kind of an indication that maybe you need to think about a function for or a reason why you would actually want to change the shape of something. All right, concepts. Concept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice. Yeah, and these I can tell you're actually thinking about a lot of different things. Like this is a sponge, and this sponge is kind of faceted differently, and this looks more like a brush, and this sponge is held differently. Like there's some really cool detail changes here that you could call out. And nice color application too. You're just missing some notes. Oh yeah, we talked, the background I think is not really working, but the concepts, like it's distracting from the concepts, the color kind of clashes. The concepts are really cool. Maybe star which 3 of these you decided to take to this level, and then call out like, this is a sponge with a grippy scrubbing surface. Or, you know, if you're taking these to another level, maybe show each of these from a different, slightly different perspective. Maybe we can see the bottom of the brush or the top of the brush a little bit more. Or you can kind of go one step further with your materials and show that some of these are matte or shiny or have some sort of grip texture. Like each iteration should push the details just a little bit further. So this would be like concept 1, composition. Yay for brushing context, but I think we're missing. I think we're missing another view of this object. Yeah, if these are your 3 iterations, concept A, B, and C, and this is your final composition, we definitely need to see this object from a few other views. Like show me the bottom view with how this brush arrangement, the bristles are arranged, and like where, if soap goes in, where the soap goes in. You could show a section view. You could show an exploded view. There's just more information I think you could include here. Your rendering style on these, I think, is really nice. This object does read as like kind of a round object, and I think that's looking pretty good. Your shading style feels loose, and your line work feels loose, but in a good way. So I think you're on the right track, Tessa. We really just need some more notes and titles about your design decisions and feature callouts, and I think you're on your way. Okay, so I think that's everyone for assignment 20. Thanks, guys. Again, if you want more specific feedback, or if you have questions about how to achieve some of the things we've talked about in this feedback session, just reach out to me.